We do have 5 out of the 7 board members here. Mr. Almendarez will be here shortly. Ms. Rodriguez is not here. If you can keep her and her family in your prayers, both of her parents have become very, very, very ill within a matter of 48 hours of one another, and so she probably will be not with us for a few weeks. I'll ask Mr. Gentry to lead us in a word of prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we have come to do the work of the school. Father, we just ask that you lead and guide and direct us as a board to do what needs to be done the way you're going. And we should ask in your precious Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
The vision statement for Natalia ISD, challenging and empowering students for global success.
And our mission statement at Devine Independent School District, in partnership with the community, is committed to providing a safe and challenging environment that promotes productive and successful lifelong learners. And of course, our tagline is building lives utilizing education. We move on to item 2, 2A agenda items for public comment, 2B non-agenda items. I'll ask Ms. Earl for the list. So we do have a timer on the display here for everyone to see, so there are no discrepancies. The next agenda is the public comment, which is a time for members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees. The Board encourages comments from citizens of the district or employees. Anyone wishing to speak may do so at this time, but before we begin, I'll remind the audience members of the Board's procedures for handling public comments. Any person wishing to address the Board during the public reserved time must sign up and note the agenda topic of the public comment. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the Board. At the beginning of the public comment, a timer will be started and will alert when time has expired. Public comment shall be limited to discussion of items or non-agenda items on our agenda tonight. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Yelling inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. Disruptive behavior and conduct during public comment is prohibited. Please see Natalia Independent School District Policy BED Local. Lastly, we ask that you not discuss students who are not your own children. We also caution your public comments are not intended for complaints about individual employees or students. Public comment is also intended to discuss employees by name or position or identify students other than your own child. As presiding officer, I'm obligated to determine whether a person addressing the board has attempted to administratively resolve any complaints or grievances about which they want to address the board that involve the district or other employees. One person that has signed up is Jaime Gomez on ethics and to be determined. I will wait till Mr. Gomez has arrived to the podium, and I will ask Ms. Harrell, who is the District 1 timer, to begin the timer. Please start. You may begin.
All right, thank you. Nice to see you all once again. I was still waiting for an apology from the official timekeeper and Mr. Smith for last time cutting me short to 2:22. I'll take it now if y'all want. It's up to y'all. Y'all did cut me short, but I'm back up here for the October 4th, October 8th posting that the school board president posted that attacked the grievance process. Once again, that grievance process is the only process that some of us have to fight back for something that's happened to our family, students, or whatever it might be. So that process was attacked by Mr. Smith on October 4th, also October 8th, but I'll leave that one alone for now. So on those postings, any school employee that favors that post, likes it, or comments on it is also in favor of those unethical violations that he committed. So I'm going to ask anybody that's working for the school or that is an administrator at the school to follow what Dr. Cavallo said during her convocation at the beginning of the school year. If you can remember, ma'am, you spoke about unethical postings on social media. And you followed those guidelines. We expect that our employees follow those guidelines, so I expect our leaders to follow those guidelines. So we can kind of just, let them know, hey, that October 4th was pretty bad when you attacked the grievance process. Part of my reasoning for being here last time, a lot of y'all might think, oh, the Myers campaign, you're helping Miss Myers, that's what you're here for. Her husband's on the agenda to get fired or whatever, terminated. Now, that's not what it was. The reason why I was here to ask a simple question, who's next? If he can do it to her, he can do it to that family, who's next? Is it my family? Well, what do you know? It's my family now. And I'm going to tell you why. I got it here and I got other things, but today I'm just going to show this one. Whoever wants it. Devine used it a good thing last time. I asked them if they want it, they can have it. But I'm going to tell you, Eric, mentioned my wife's name, Miss Gomez. You mentioned her as Miss Gomez. I just encourage you to speak to more staff than Mrs. Gomez. By you doing that, you're bringing my wife into this. Since this campaign started on September 8th with the Myers family, she made it clear to me and I made it clear to her, you're going to be nowhere in this fight for a spot on the school board. All right, now he's bringing her into it. In private messages, I have a few more. This is the one that I'll give out tonight. I'm not here to make him look bad. I want an apology and I want him to remove the October 4th and October 8th post. If you all say that you don't have Facebook,
Your time is over. Thank you.
ask somebody. I got it here.
Thank you. Move on to item number 4, recognitions, campus principals. Dr. Colombo.
October is designated as Principal Recognition Month, and we have 4 very hardworking principals that I would like to recognize at this time. We have flags for them, and we are going to start with Ms. Rebecca Melton. She is our early childhood campus principal. She's in her 2nd year as early childhood campus principal. She's worked very hard on working with the children, improving instruction over there, and the building. Everything is looking really good, and I appreciate her dedication to the Early Childhood Center.
She wears cute shoes. Really cute. I love it.
The next campus principal that I'd like to recognize is also in her 2nd year as principal, Bridget Ayala. She is the elementary principal. She has grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. She has the largest campus in the district with over 400 students now. We have about 100 students in each grade level. And she has worked at the instructional process, and she is in the midst of planning for the addition to the school that we're really excited about. Our 3rd principal that I want to recognize tonight is Mr. Adam Martinez. He is in his 3rd year. He's our really veteran now. 3rd year of principal at the Natalia Junior High, working also with his staff on instruction, and I'm pleased with what he does and how hard he works to make junior high fun and interesting and a good learning environment. And the 4th principal I'd like to recognize also, he is our 2nd year at the high school. He has worked very hard to increase the number of dual credit hours that are offered and working on the pathways to make sure that they meet the needs of our students and our workforce in the area. So thank you so much to all 4 of these principals and their hard work. They work many hours above and beyond their regular school day. Thank you so much. I can stay down there. We go to student of the month next. They're up there. The next, we'd like to recognize our outstanding students each month by campus. And we'll start with ECC, and we'll be giving certificates out to the students of the month, and the campus principals will be talking about each of these outstanding students.
You want to hand that to Eric? Or you want to hold it? You want to hold that?
Good evening, Dr. Calabo and esteemed board. It is an honor to recognize Desmond Frias as Natalia's ECC Student of the Month for October. This year, Desmond is in our pre-K4 program. Desmond is described by his teacher as a well-rounded student. He is an outstanding student academically, completing his assignments in a timely manner and putting maximum effort into everything he does. Desmond is raised in a family where strong attributes like being kind, dependable, and cooperative are nurtured. He consistently demonstrates compassion, trustworthiness, optimism, and reliability. Congratulations, Desmond. You want to take a picture?
Good job. Now scoot over just a little more. Can you scoot over a little more? Perfect. Ready? Nice big smile. Don't cover it up. There you go. Perfect.
Having all this spotlight on.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you, ECC. Our next campus,
Okay, so look, this is yours.
we have Ms. Vigala with the elementary campus, introducing us to her Student of the Month.
Good evening, school board, Dr. Calabo, and community members. The student of the month for Natalia Elementary is Zarian Guajardo. He was chosen by staff and teachers for the character trait of gratitude. This student not only values what they have, but also fosters positive relationships and a healthy environment for others around him. He thanks teachers and classmates regularly. Zarian offers to help and support his peers at school. He recognizes and appreciates opportunities and resources available to him by always showing just how appreciative he is. Zarian always shows a positive attitude, even in challenging situations. Congratulations, Zarian.
And now for our Student of the Month from the junior high, we have Mr. Martinez telling us about the Student of the Month from the junior high.
Good evening, Mr. Board President, members of the board, community members, and Dr. Calabo. It's my honor and my pleasure to announce the Junior High Student of the Month here this evening, and she is 7th grader Miss Eileen Soto. She is the daughter of Carol Soto. She has 3 older brothers and 2 younger sisters, or excuse me, 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister, so definitely a lot of family here to be able to have also in the celebration. Eileen is an A Honor Roll student with us here at the junior high. She has perfect attendance this grading period, and she doesn't have any discipline referrals. More of a model citizen here that we have on the campus. Very high character, very helpful to others, very much a exemplary model of what we'd like to see at the junior high. Her favorite subject is reading, and when I asked her, well, why is reading your favorite subject? She did mention that she does a lot better in reading than the other subjects, so very much she is high performing in the area of reading. One of the things that she enjoys doing outside of school is she enjoys riding horses. So she learned how to ride horses at the age of 7 years old. So not very surprising to know that whenever she grows up, she'd like to be a vet working with animals. So I think she's well on her way. She's going to be very much prepared. So congratulations, Eileen, the Junior High Student of the Month.
And our last Student of the Month for October, we have Mr. Forrest, high school principal, introducing us to the high school Student of the Month.
Good evening, school board. I'd like to welcome Kinsey Giroux up to the front office. Oh, I'm sorry, not the front office. She does not ever come to the front office. As you can see, she truly exhibits what kindness is about, being a Lady Mustang here at the high school. Every morning she greets the staff and students with a smile, and she truly has just a great way to begin the morning there at school every time we see her. Kinsley, she's in the 9th grade. She's part of our FFA, as you can see. She's about to go and present her project over there at the cafeteria. She's also a Lady Mustang. She's part of our dual credit program, and she's the freshman class president. And at the moment, and has always been, as a freshman, she's been on the A honor roll. And so I'd like to introduce you to Kinsley. Congratulations.
We're going to move on to item 4A, student achievement. 4A1, presentation interim assessment results. Ms. Lovett.
And she'll be having the principals help me throughout it tonight.
Good evening, School Board and Dr. Calavo. I'm going to be giving you some information on the TEA interim assessments that we administered in October. Just a little bit of background information. Every year TEA offers interim assessments for school districts to use in order to help them make projections towards that year's STAR results in spring, their current spring. It is a broad span of student expectations. It's used to monitor it's used to give checkpoints a few times a year, and we use it to monitor progress and predict some of their performance. What they are, like I said earlier, is it's an optional standardized assessment. It is very similar to the STAR blueprints. It's a shortened version. It's a way that we use to monitor academic progress, and it's a tool that we use for grouping for differentiation. What it is not is a formative assessment tool, meaning that we don't get to the standards level performance data. It's also not questions that teachers will use in the classroom to help drive their instruction. What we can do with them and what we do with them is determine if a student needs any type of instructional intervention based on the projections that these interim assessments make. It also helps us with goal setting if the students are on track to meet their year-end goals. What it doesn't tell us is whether a student has mastered a particular standard. In a minute I'll show you how the test is set up, so that'll help further explain why it doesn't tell you what they've mastered. Or if a student has any type of misconception or misunderstanding. So the way that the test is designed, the math in the RLA is predictive or projective, meaning that it projects whether or not a student is going to, at this moment in time that we gave the assessment, pass the STAR test. All students start off with the same 15 questions. They are STAR-like questions. From there, what it does is it determines, based on how they answered, whether they're going to go into a low, medium, or high path. From there, each student is answering different questions. No one student is answering the same questions. The algorithm then determines whether or not, based on that data alone, whether the student is projected to pass at the end of the school year on the STAR test. The Science and Social Studies assessment is a linear design. It's meant to be more like a benchmark. It does not project how the students will perform on STAR, and we usually give that assessment later on in the school year, closer to the STAR test. So what we did this year, in the past, we've always given the interim assessment right around the December-January timeframe. It was only just the one assessment. The patterns weren't always, there were some things that showed us, oh yes, exactly alignment, meaning that, like for example, 50% were projected to pass science on the interim, and then 50% actually passed on the science. We saw some data that showed us that, but then we also saw some data that didn't show us anything like that. 50% were going to pass, but it actually ended up being 80% or 20%. So there wasn't any real pattern for us to follow in the previous years. This year we've changed it up a bit. We're actually going to give the interim assessment twice. We did it now in October kind of as a pre-assessment. We'll give it again, the reading and the math again in March, and then we'll be able to compare the data with the actual scores, and that'll kind of give us a better definitive if we're able to utilize that data in the future. I'm now going to hand it over to our principals who are actually going to talk about the interim data. We did give the reading and math interim assessment, and it was administered during the week of October 14th.
Hello, I get the pleasure of starting first. Third grade interim assessments show that there is a 42% passing in reading for third grade and 31% passing in math for third grade. So we obviously have work to do there. And these color codings, as you can see here, basically tell us where the student needs are, and it helps us to group them. Fourth grade looks a little better with 64% passing reading and 40% passing in math. This thing right here. Yeah, sure. Thank you. And then finally in fifth grade, with 72% passing in reading and 53% passing in math. So having said that, if we look at the next slide, I just wanted to talk to you all about a little bit about some of the things that we're doing on the campus in terms of instruction. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we communicate the interim assessment results to parents and students. That has not happened yet, but that will be happening in the very near future. There's a report that comes out from this testing system, and we're going to send that home for parents and have the conversations with students about what this data means. We're going to begin incorporating unit assessment goal tracking sheets. So basically students will have like unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and they'll be able to color in and shade in, see where they stand on unit assessments. We're going to emphasize individualized instruction through targeted programming and scheduling. We are doing that right now. What those fancy words mean is that we have a different kind of schedule we're running where all students have 3 teachers, an ELAR teacher, a math teacher, and then a small group teacher. And that small group teacher is there to give them their individualized instruction. So they're going to use not necessarily this data, but data that comes from our progress measures and from unit assessments, and be able to pull them for small group within their time with that teacher to work on those specific skills. Same thing, we have GT kiddos grouped together, so they'll be working through that small group teacher, and that third teacher just really allows us to target some of these pieces for the students, and we didn't have that before. We have it for all students now. Before, we just had an intervention teacher that was only able to pull maybe 5 to 10 students per grade level, depending, but now all students get that third teacher. We're going to conduct monthly Friday accelerated instruction sessions, so the kiddos that did not pass in math or reading STAR, they by law have to have some accelerated instruction to try and remediate some of those skills. Varying amounts of time depending on how low they achieved. So we're doing that once a month on Fridays, and we've had a pretty good turnout. I think we had 60 some odd kids at the last Friday session on October 18th. We want to integrate an aligned writing strategy across the curriculum. So now we have science that has writing on the STAR test. We obviously have all of the ELAR tests have writing. In the past 3 years and on ago, writing was only done through the STAR in 4th and 7th grade, and now we see it across all grade levels. So we want to focus on that and then give a January benchmark. The new math curriculum also has a writing component where kiddos have to explain their thinking through actual writing. So we're aligning that there. And we are implementing a new curriculum so that we can, and I've had this conversation with you board members in a board workshop, but we're trying to get the assessments and the instruction to align with the curriculum. And so we're in year 2 of the ELAR curriculum, and year 1 for a new math curriculum, and year 1 for a science curriculum. So we're lucky to have all of that going on. And then there's one more slide, the last slide, I promise. So I think So we will have a dedicated instructional coach to our campus, and that's really exciting. It's Miss Deandra Gomez, and so she will be housed on our campus, and she'll be accessible for teachers when they are available, which is exciting. Now teachers can go to her and say, I need help with this, right? Or let me ask this question about that, maybe during their planning time, and know where she's at. So that's really exciting. And that's gonna allow her to provide tailored coaching based on the student, on the teacher's needs. Let's see, facilitate access. Yeah, and so that's what that third bullet means there, that she's going to be available to them when they need and want. We are conducting weekly PLC cluster meetings. We do that on Wednesdays for all of our teachers, and we include our special education teachers. And right now we're focusing on the curriculum implementation, getting the pacing right, making sure we're implementing it as it was designed. We also hold an instructional leadership team meeting on Tuesdays, and we're focusing on growing teacher leaders there and data analysis. Our teachers are also offered individualized professional development through My Plan, and they get a set amount of money and they get to choose the professional development that they want to go to. It's really, really exciting. I wish I had that opportunity when I was a teacher, so I'm really excited for them. And then we're implementing processes for transparency and shared accountability. Processes such as we created a new form where when we go to our meetings or we have parent meetings, all teachers have to contribute, and because they have 3 teachers or 4 teachers for each student, and they're all contributing so that everybody can see how they're doing in each other's classrooms and what their grades are like and the progress measures. So holding everyone accountable for student learning. And we are in year 2 of the Effective Schools Grant, and we're partnering with NIET. They come in and they help us just make sure we're still swimming in the right direction on several of these initiatives. So I know that was a lot, but it's what we're really doing, and I wanted the opportunity to share that with you all.
Any questions for Ms. Ayala? And just so you know, as far as like the instructional coaches and some of the changes, Dr. Kalalo will go over that after we're done with this presentation. We're going to skip down to faculty and staff organizational changes. So Dr. Kalalo can kind of piggyback on what she has said about Ms. Gomez, and there's going to be those types of folks at each of the campuses, which is going to be great as far as the extra resources for the campuses, so that's exciting.
Yeah,
as far as Ms. Ayala and anything at the elementary, Mr. Garza, do you have any questions? No, sir. Mr. Mesa? Mr. Gentry? Ms. Allred?
I have a couple of questions. Back to the benchmarking, what are we benchmarking that against? Is it like national testing?
So like the benchmark I want to give for writing, is that what you mean?
Yes, so since we implemented the new curriculum, when we benchmark them, and the one that just took place in October, are we benchmarking that against recent test scores? Is that what or where we tested at last year in the district?
So the interim, and Amanda, I'm sorry, Ms. Lopez, I don't want to misspeak. The October one is, that one comes from the state, and that, I believe I'll let her speak to that. That's against state standards, so I'll let her speak to that one. But the benchmark that I talked about for writing, that's something that we want to implement on our campus. And so we want to align it to the rubric for the state. So we want to pull samples, we want to give a standardized writing prompt, and then do that within a certain time frame. They set expectations, and students will know the writing process by then. And then we pull those samples in and look at the rubric that the state would use for, let's say, a STAR test, and grade that based on the rubric so we know where we're at, and then we can choose the weak components from the writing to then get us to that finish line with STAR. That's the local one that I want to put on our campus for writing, but I'll let Ms. Lopez speak to the October interim.
Okay, so then on the STAR performances for the ones that are underperforming, are we breaking that down to find out, I guess, where the barrier is for them, if, that they're not making it to that point for the ones that are underperforming?
And again, can I ask, are you talking about the interim assessment? And those, I'm gonna let her speak to that because unfortunately that test doesn't actually give us the details of the study standards, but hopefully she can clarify.
So the interim assessment is meant to, again, just provide us who's going to need that intervention and that projection. From there, what we do then is take the formative assessments that we're doing through the curriculum to help us identify specifically the struggles that the students are having, whether it's based on TEKS, whether it's based on, this concept and so forth. So this interim is not we don't use it by itself. We only use it to give us the overview. Then from there, we dig deeper through the unit assessments and everything that's going on in the classroom, what the teacher observes, those small groups that Ms. Ayala was referring to. They do progress monitoring on the students using our supplemental resources. So all of that data gets looked at monthly through that MTSS process actually as well to just see where the students are. And then that's how we determine their path or their learning path.
That was a little more detailed then, so you know what to...
We do that on the campus level, yes. The interim is just more of an overview to say, hey, here's a projection.
Yeah. Did you have
One more. So on the teacher resources that we have, which that is awesome that we're going to have some sort of curriculum support for teachers. What type of feedback are you getting from the instructional leadership? So they have the resources now to attend professional developments. Are you seeing that that's being brought back to the campus level, making a difference when they choose to attend some of the professional development opportunities?
Well, let me talk about the MyPlan first of all overall. So MyPlan was actually a grant that Natalia signed up with. This is our third year in it, but it was actually only a 2-year grant. It was through that 2-year grant, I believe the elementary was there 3 years ago. They're the first one. And they got to pick what they wanted, and they did at that time. Different administration came back, they shared it. Sometimes they did it together, the teachers would do it together. Once the 2-year grant was over, TXI, that's the grant holder, they had extra funds left over from the federal, I think it's EIR. And so what they said was, hey, you guys were great, you participated with us, you did all this stuff for us. We're just going to go ahead and give your teachers $8,000 each to go and do any type of professional development that they wanted. So it was open to them. Some teachers have taken advantage of them. As far as coming back to the campus, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we haven't exactly set up a system where we expect that, but like for the grant scheme, for them to come back and say, I learned about this. But I on my campus have had beginning of the year goal setting meetings with our teachers, and so has Ms. Beer actually, the AP, who does the other half of their evaluations. And so we're really encouraging them to, and also informing them, sending them information about professional development that aligns with their goals. So some of them, like for instance, one that I met with today, she says, I'm really struggling to get through small groups and how this whole thing works. And so I'll go back and I'll look for professional development that I may know about, that the region might offer. I talked to one teacher today about a second grade state conference that I went to when I taught second grade. And so I'm trying to encourage them to go to professional development that meets their goals. All teachers set a professional goal and a student growth goal, and so we're sitting down and kind of to having those talks, but there hasn't been an expectation for them to necessarily bring it back and share with the staff. But there is the expectation for them to bring it back and use it to grow as per the T-test tool. So the T-test tool, it's their evaluation tool, but it's also meant for growth. I have shown them that that's what the rubric is about. It's making that link between their professional growth and what is actually happening in the classroom. So that's a little bit about that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the only question I have, and I think it would be for across the district, is there different processes at each campus, or is it a standardized thing if we identify either a struggling student academically and or a struggling staff member? Is that left up to campus leadership? Is that more from the curriculum department? And I'm not asking for necessarily specifics, but is that left up to each principal with, like I said, a struggling student or a struggling staff member academically?
So I'm going to speak to the struggling teacher part because that's more what my department would in the past handle. There is a process in place. Essentially, we have different types of coaching. There's what we call facilitative coaching where the teachers reach out to us and say, hey, can you help me with this or can you come by? And then there's something called action coaching where the principals will identify a teacher who's in need of coaching based on what they've observed in the classroom. And that's a more formal process where the coach would work with that teacher specifically on an action plan type, depending on what their needs were. As for struggling students, the campuses, I believe, all handle them independently on how they work with struggling students. They all have their own plans.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Seibel.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
just
you.
in case.
We have Mr. Martinez with the junior high.
Good evening once again, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Calabo. I will continue on with the presentation here this evening on our junior high campus. As we have been able to conduct our interim assessments, we have been very encouraged by the performance of our students. One thing that we did notice from the beginning of the year assessments that we had our students take, much higher level of motivation from our students, and their performance reflected that. The students really, as we had an opportunity to visit with them, as we had an opportunity to be able to talk to them, really weren't motivated at the beginning of the year. And when we really sat down with them and talked to them about that, we found out that they didn't give their best effort, and it was very evident in the beginning of the year testing. And as we did have the opportunity to motivate and incentivize the interim assessment, you can see that the performance was very much better. So here for 6th grade reading, we're at a projection of 73% passing, and in 6th grade math, we are projected to be able to have 53% passing. Math continues to be our Achilles heel, as it is across most of the state of Texas. So we are continuing to work to develop skills and help close gaps with our math. So it is very evident across the campus that math is our Achilles heel at this point. Going over to 7th grade, we are doing a projection of 77% passing in the reading, and we are projected to have a 51% passing in 7th grade math. As we go into our final grade level, the 8th graders, so our reading is performing the best on campus right now. We are projecting to have 82% passing in 8th grade reading. We did have a staff member return back to 8th grade reading, Ms. Elvie Loza, who has done 8th grade reading before. She has done wonderful in the past, and we are projecting to do wonderful again this year as well. 8th grade math is where we have the most work to do. We are currently projected to have a 37% passing mark, so 64% of our students are projected to not meet standards. So that's way too much, and we're going to be working on trying to reduce that by the end of the year. On another note, we do have Algebra 1 returning back to the junior high campus. We no longer have the students go to the high school, and right now we're projected to have 89% passing. I know the last 2 years we have been at 100% passing, so it looks like right now 2 students are projected not to meet standards, so we're working on getting that back up to the 100% mark that Ms. Kathy Martinez has established for the district. So we're working on trying to get that a little bit more improved by the end of the year. Some of the things that we're doing here, as we started this year, we know that we were going to be needing to be able to do things a lot better in terms of academic achievement. We established the year with a sense of urgency. We know that there is a big need to increase academics, and our students, our staff, we wanted to be able to make that very much known that this is something that is not okay with me. This is something that is not okay with students and their parents in the community, and we wanted to create a sense of urgency in regards to we need to give all that we can in order to turn this thing around. So we even have a theme this year as a staff, we hold the key to unlock our students' potential. So it starts with us. Everything that we do, everything that we're going to be able to try to accomplish, it starts with us as adults on the campus to be able to get our students from where they're at to where they need to be. So again, as I noticed, we have made a lot of improvements from the beginning of the year assessments to our interim assessments, and we are also noting, and I had several conversations with not only staff members but also with teachers and students as well, projections are great, But if we're sitting here thinking that the work is over and we don't have to do anything else with the projections and we're just going to have these become reality in May, that's absolutely wrong. So this is now just where the work is beginning. With a lot of students that made drastic improvements, we've already started having the conversations about, well, what happened? What was the reason why you were able to do substantially better on these interim assessments as opposed to how you performed on your beginning of the year assessments? And a lot of them were very much with, I just didn't try and I didn't have any motivation to do my best. And so as we continue to work towards finding ways in order to incentivize our students to give their best, I'm going to stand before you and say we're going to need some help on that. Not only from us as adults, but also from parents, building partnerships, building that connection from school to home. The only way that we're going to be able to continue to have these students academically achieve high levels is doing it together. We can't just do it here at the school. We need to do it together with parents, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same page and having our students go in the right direction. So we're going to need to continue to build off of this increased performance on the interim, but the work's not over. We cannot have our students become complacent and think, well, I'm projected to hit masters, I can just coast and I can just take it easy. Absolutely not. It takes working with the same effort and motivation each and every day for us to have those projections become reality. So that's the message that we're trying to give our kids, because that's exactly what reality is. This year on campus, I'm happy to report that we have, for the very first time during my tenure, a dedicated instructional coach that has been a breath of fresh air. She's come onto the campus. A lot of my staff members did not have the opportunity to work with her before, Ms. Sari Resendez, and she's been a part of the district. She was at the elementary before, and she's come over to the junior high. And I think that was actually a good thing. She didn't know very much about the staff didn't know very much about her, and they've been able to really do a lot of good work in a short amount of time. She helps with our coordination of our professional learning communities, where we meet with our teachers bi-weekly, with our core tested area teachers, and then every month during our Fridays that we have our teachers come in, we do have a whole campus professional learning community. So she's again done a wonderful job. She's very much available. She schedules meetings individually with teachers as needed and has been very supportive. So I cannot thank her enough for the work that she's already done and for the work that she's going to continue to do for us on the campus. So very much have been blessed to be able to have her on campus. The next thing that we have here at the junior high, again, we are in year 1 of implementation for 2 brand new curriculums in the reading and math department. So from the reading department, we're implementing the Amplify curriculum across 6, 7, and 8. And in the math department, we're implementing the Carnegie curriculum. I will tell you that it has been a challenge. Our teachers are having to learn how to do stuff a different way, and a lot of the curriculum that they've been used to in the past is not structured and is not organized in the same manner in which our new curriculums are. A lot of the curriculum pieces are going to be where they become more recursive and spiraled in nature instead of being as it used to be in the past, in some cases in isolation. We're going to have a lot of things come back around where our kids are going to have exposure to concepts, but then they're going to have an opportunity to be exposed again throughout the year. So it's a learning curve. Our teachers are really getting used to some of the things, and I'm not going to tell you we're perfect right now, because we're absolutely not. But what it comes down to is we're going in and we're helping support these teachers each and every day. So the next part on here is fidelity to curriculum walkthroughs. So what we've been able to establish, Ms. Resendez and I, along with Ms. Rendon, the assistant principal, is we're going into classrooms and we're going in and seeing that these teachers are actually implementing the curriculum. We can't say that a curriculum does or doesn't work if we're not implementing the curriculum to fidelity. And we've spent a lot of time already this year, and we're going to continue to spend time the rest of the year making sure that our teachers are implementing the curriculum the way that it was intended to be done. We need to give the curriculum a chance. I will say that my staff has been very receptive to the actual curriculum. They have been wonderful in regards to facing the challenges with an open mind and being able to have the opportunity to do something different, because we know what we've done in the past and we know what the results gave us. So we really want to make sure that we are giving our new curriculums an opportunity to be successful without just saying, well, it's the curriculum's fault, or it's not something that's going to be something well for the kids. Last few things here, we are implementing high priority tutoring. So some of the things that we've already identified, Mrs. Rendon and I have been working very closely in regards to building some data hubs for our campus to include historical longitudinal data for our state assessment for kids, implementing some of our beginning of the year testing, some of our interim testing. We're going to be able to really see where the kids are that we have the most needs. And those are the kids that we're really focusing on initially. And we're inviting them to tutoring. We started tutoring in September, so we offer tutoring services Monday through Wednesday. And we are really trying to get the kids that need to be there. And a large portion of kids have actually shown up and have done very much what we've asked them to do, which is to get the help and support that they need. We're not going to be able to move mountains with just the time that we have during the day. Unfortunately, we are going to need to have some kids stay after school. And one Friday of the month, we are designated as a Friday school for us to be able to help support those kids that really are going to be identified as high areas of need. So one of the things we're about to embark on here, and I know we have it as an item here later on for approval, we are going to be purchasing some binders, and in those binders we're going to have a sheet that we're going to have all of our students' historical data, we're going to have some current data, we're going to have some things that really puts things in perspective for our kids, because I think a lot of the kids don't really understand to their level where they're at and where they have been performing at in the past. So I want our kids to understand that just because they haven't been successful in the past doesn't mean that it's not going to be something that can be happening in the future. I want them to be able to know that just because they have not done so well in the past, that we're going to help them get from where they're at to where they need to be. So with that binder, we're going to be able to have some goal setting sheets that are going to be able to help them understand that, you know what, we have a target to be able to work towards, and we're going to be able to do it together. And I feel that we can do that very positively. Now, it may feel a little bit similar. Some of my background in the past, I have been an avid district director in the past in another district. The concept is along the same lines of being able to organize our kids and to be able to have where we're going to be able to really get our kids organized and focused on what needs to be focused, and that's their academics. So, and in closing, again, we're trying to close the gaps. A lot of our students, unfortunately, they have substantial gaps, and we've also seen here tonight, our gaps are very much in math. Not to say we don't have gaps in reading, but our gaps are very evident in math. So we're going to be working trying to close those gaps, and again, we're going to be able to do it together. So I'd love to be able to answer any questions that you may have. If you have any questions.
I'll start to my right here, Dana.
No questions. I think the binders will be interesting, just so, not necessarily that you'll get a whole lot of buy-in from the students, but just so that they're informed, at least, so they understand that their progress, where they've been, where we want them to be, things like that. Maybe once they see that and they fully understand, they can start to work towards that. So
Yeah.
that's a neat idea.
Well, one of the components too is, when we think about, just students' performance, I am guilty of it too. We have a tendency of thinking of the kids that are low performing, but what about those kids that are high performing that may be slipping, that may be having where they've been at the master's level, but now they've gone into the meets level, or from the meets into the approaches level. So I want to make sure we're having conversations with those students too.
Right, and I think you hit it right on the mark earlier when you said that they can kind of become complacent. They're making good grades, coming kind of easy to them, so they're starting to scale back a little, and I want to keep that same momentum. So I'd be interested to see how that goes for you.
Yeah, well, and again, we're about to embark on it, and then, just had a great conversation with a staff member. We're also wanting to establish some mentor groups with our teachers, so I'm not going to tell you that I have it all fleshed out right now, but we are going to be wanting to establish some groups. So we're thinking initially right now, maybe anywhere from 5 to 10 kids per teacher and staff member, and heck, I want a group too. Just to be able to have, where we're building that rapport, getting to know our kids a little bit more on the student level. We need to know our kids by name and need. And when it comes down to it, our kids are more than a test score. They're a person, they're a human. We need to know what things are working for them. We need to know what barriers they have, whether it be school barriers, whether it be home barriers. And the only way for us to do that is to really start doing more of that mentoring. And we're going to figure it out. I'm going to tell you that. We're going to figure it out.
Mr. Ginger? Mr. Almendares? Mr. Bessa? Mr. Garza?
No question.
I was trying to think on Wednesday. I was just going to say to my personal child, all of a sudden she seems more motivated and excited and determined to make better grades. So I could tell there's been some kind of conversations happening at the campus level before she just wanted to do enough to get by, which might be in the blood. But she seems very motivated, and she just mentioned that a lot of her. And I think one thing also that's helping with that is the little incentive deals from athletics with them with the different colors for what that means, and I just think it's neat that, everything's kind of intertwined and trying to motivate these kids. So.
Mr. President, it's a team effort, and when it comes down to it, we can't do it by ourselves, and when we can partner with athletics, when we can partner with parents, we can partner with community. I will close by saying that the kids these days are different. They're very different from whenever I grew up. They're very different from when my parents grew up, and I would love to tell you that the kids have the intrinsic motivation of, you know what, I want to do my best because I want to be proud of myself. Not to say that there's not kids that are like that, but a lot of our kids, we have to find out what motivates them, and a lot of times it is extrinsic motivation. And when we can find that out, and as long as we're able to be in compliance and do things the right way, we're going to be able to get the best out of them. And at the heart of it, that's all I want for our kids, for us to give us their best each and every day.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
We have one more campus. I just want to comment, ECC that did not have interim assessments, they're too young. But they have had a beginning of the year test, and after their middle of the year test, and we'll compare those two, and you'll get to hear from her at length. So the last interim assessment report is from Mr. Torres with the high school.
Good evening, school board. Let's see here. Let me change this here. We had 3 interim tests this past month. We had English 1, English 2, and Algebra 1. If you look at our English 1 scores, we were at 57% passing. At the end of last year, the STAR English 1 test, we were at 61%, so we're about 4% behind in October. So we still have about a good 4 or 5 months to go, so I believe we're going to make that stagger, and we're going to improve. We've got a great English 1 teacher. English 2, we are at 75% passing. Last year we ended at 74%, so we are already above 1%, and so in the next 4 to 5 months we're going to make that stagger. I believe we'll probably be able to reach up to 80% in English 2, and so that's promising there. Algebra 1 is a little different story. As Mr. Martinez says, we are struggling. We're at 35%. This is the first year that we're implementing the new curriculum with Carnegie. And I do have a new algebra teacher, and so we're working with him. We are going to be looking into a couple of adjustments as we move forward after 2 months of Carnegie. A couple of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to we have a new instructional coach beginning next Monday. Ms. Daniels is coming over to the high school. I had a chance to meet with her today, in which we're going to map out the instructional map for Carnegie so that we can make sure that it is being implemented with fidelity. And so we're excited about Ms. Daniels coming over. This is the first year with Carnegie. In the times that I've been in the classroom, I see our Algebra 1 teacher working very well, and the teachers and the students engaged. So I want to figure out what it is that is kind of where the kids are struggling there. At this time, some of the things that we're implementing for students are our Friday schools for the accelerated instructional tutoring. We've got that going on Fridays. We've also implemented some tutoring schedules for athletes before each progress report, and also our special education students that are coming in during their tutorial times and makeup times right before grade reporting. Our SPED department is working really hard with these special population groups to make sure that they catch up in their classes. And so again, we are looking at that data, that Algebra 1 data. We're struggling a little bit there, but we have some time to make it up. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Garza?
I was curious if during the instructional component of the Carnegie, is there time built in to put in extra time for students who are struggling?
Like one-on-one
Well,
or group or like group?
Basically, if you have 2, 3, maybe it's one student who isn't ready to maybe move on to the next part of the curriculum. Is there time built in to understand that we realize there will be gaps?
Yeah.
Because based on the data, it seems to be a consistent area of gaps. So is that being worked into the curriculum part so that we are honestly giving our best foot forward and making sure everyone captures as much as possible?
So the way that Carnegie works, so we have 55 minutes for a period, so they have 55 minutes, but the lesson themselves, they start with the instruction and so forth, but there's time built in within Carnegie, the actual lesson, where they're doing independent work, but the teacher still has that freedom to use any type of instructional practice they want. So if they want a partner, if they want small group, if they want group table, you don't see it all the time at the high school level, and that's where an instructional coach will come in showing high school teachers those instructional practices, but there is availability within the lesson to be able to use those practices to help the strugglers when those kids that are already good are moving on. Also, we for Algebra 1, we purchased what we call Mathia. It's a complimentary online program, but it scaffolds for teachers, not teachers, for students, and that's also built into the scope and sequence. So there's actual Mathia time for the students to get online, and they're able to scaffold. We also got the Tier 3 Math Stream program as well, which is videos based on how the kids are answering, and it has teachers showing them on the video how to work the problem. So all of that is also built into the curriculum.
Mr. Garza, what I've seen when I've gone into the Algebra 1 teacher is he uses a lot of small group instruction. So I do see kids in groups of 2, 3, 4, and so when I've gone in there to check to see how the kids are engaged and so forth, it's been promising. So again, the scores are a little. It's surprising to me to see that, because when I go in there, I see what you're talking about when he's going in and working with the students 2 by 2, 3 or 4. So one of the things that I talked to the new instructional coach today was going in and checking to see where the disconnect is. What is it? Why is it that when I go into the classroom and I see the kids working and with fidelity, they're actually working and working through the problems, we're not seeing that on an interim test. Again, this is just projection, right? But we still have a couple of months to go. So, yeah.
And I think the only question I have for Ms. Lopez would be looking at these assessments that we did, how much were we off of our projections a year ago compared to the results a year ago, compared to, you know what I mean, like how much do those actually reflect our estimations?
So in English 1 at the high school, we were 3 percentage points below. In English 2, we were 1 percentage above what we ended, but in Algebra 1, we have a ways to go. Is that what you were asking?
Well, like last year when we did these same.
Oh, the interims, not the actual.
The interims a year ago when we did the interims in whether it was September, October, November, whenever we did that, and just like y'all are doing the projections now, how did those projections actually end up? Like, were we close on what we projected?
So last year's, and this is why I think this year I believe we're going to get a better data set. Last year we did the interim assessment just one time. We did it the day before we went to Christmas break. All of that kind of may have skewed the data. We did find some data that was right on. They projected this in December and they ended up doing that on the STAR. And then we had other content areas that it was way off. So it wasn't really good enough to give us a pattern. We're hoping this year, like I said, we'll have the better data sets. I already see improvement on the interim, specifically the junior high, because in the past, junior high interim assessment scores have never been what they are then. And I know that they did a really good job talking to the kids about taking it seriously, and they did, and it was evident on those scores, because, yeah, so I'm hopeful.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to 4D2, annual audit, just so we can get our visitor up and headed back to you, Valerie, or Kenneth, or wherever we're headed that way. Appreciate you coming. You want to get out your
Good evening, Dr. Calavo, Mr. President, board members. My name is Dusty Ruth. I'm from Coleman Horn Company, and we audited the school district's financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2024. And throughout my presentation, I know you try to be pretty brief, but if you have any questions about anything, we can go over it. So on page 4. Oh, there's nothing. Okay. That's fine. So just on page 4, this is our opinion letter on the district's financial statements. And once again, on paragraph 2 is our opinion. And in our opinion, the district's financial statements are fairly presented, which is an unmodified or clean opinion, which is highest level of assurance or auditor can express in a set of financial statements. Norma and her staff do a great job on the financial statements throughout the year. We didn't have any findings and only had 5 adjustments to the fund statements. So, great job. On page 17, I'm just going to go over your fund balances for you. On page 17, your first column there is your general fund. So your revenues for the year is $15.5 million, expenditures $16.2 million, and you had a decrease in fund balance of $540,768. So that leaves your general fund with the ending fund balance of $4,959,502, which was expected. We'll see the budget here in a little bit. Your debt service fund, it's the second column. You had 1.5 in revenues, $600,000 in expenses, and y'all paid off $783,000 in early debt payoff. So you had an increase of fund balance there at $178,860. So that leaves you with an ending fund balance of $1,071,476 in your debt service fund. And all your other funds for the school had a decrease of $193,556, leaving that with the ending fund balance of $631,927. And those fund balances are comprised of your food service fund, your summer feeding, and your campus activity funds. Any questions on that? Moving on to page 48. This is your budget and actual for your general fund. Your first column there is the original budget, second column is your final budget, and your third column is your actual, what you actually did for the year. So y'all's your final budget for revenues is $15.9 million. Y'all actually had $15.5 million in revenues. Expenditures, y'all final budget was $16.8 million. Y'all actually had $16.2 million in revenues. And you didn't have any budget over expenditure for any line item there. So it's always a good thing. And the last, on page 66 and 67. So page 67 there, this is your schedule of delinquent taxes receivable. At the beginning of the year, you had $511,921 receivable. Your current year levy is $4.6 million. Your maintenance collections was $2.7 million. Your debt service collections was $1.4 million. Other adjustments of $247,000. So your ending balance was $676,741. And y'all collected about 92% of your current year levy for the year, which was a decrease last year about 94%. And that was the last thing I was going to go over. Once again, you had a clean opinion, and thank you for letting us come here and audit your financial statements.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Appreciate it. We're going to move back up to 4B. I'm sorry, yes, we're going to do the action. We're going to move to 5B quickly. Discuss and take possible action regarding the engagement of Coleman, Horton, and Company to conduct the 24-25 annual financial audit. I'll make a motion to set the continued firm for Coleman Horton. As presented. Have a motion by myself, second by Mr. Darcy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. 5A, discuss and take possible action to approve the 23-24 Natalia ISD audit report. I'm going to make a motion to approve the report as presented. Motion by myself, second by Mr. Garza. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Go, Mr. Horton. Thank you. 6-0. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. 6-0 on both of those votes. All right, now we're going to continue the shuffle here and go back to 4B, student experience, connections, and well-being. 4B1, presentation, cybersecurity. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Mine will be short, and it appears that I should have done it before the principals talked, because they talked about what was going on. And this is about our instructional support staff. We have a very strong instructional support staff. This year we have Ms. Lopez, who's our executive director of CNI, Ms. Gomez, who has been doing math at elementary and ECC. Erin Daniels was doing ELAR at elementary and ECC. Sorry to send this. We started the year with her assigned to junior high. They are a campus that's having to work on school improvement, so we put her here from the beginning of the school year. And then we had Ms. Sagia, who was assigned as instructional staff at the high school as academic dean, who was doing some curriculum-based work and working with dual credit and a lot with PEAS. We've had to rely on her on PEAS. We've had some discussions about how to best work with the campuses, how to help them, help their staff the best, and we've been doing this district-based approach where it was more centralized for instructional support, and we've talked to principals. Ms. Lopez and I have talked. We've done a lot of discussions. We're going to try now a more decentralized support system at the schools. And so as they were talking about, I could back up and say that first, but let me stop right there because I skipped that slide. In the curriculum department always works with curriculum instruction, programming, instructional coaching, testing and accountability, data review and analysis, new teacher training and mentoring, instructional technology, testing accommodations, district testing coordinator, professional development, and actually Amanda's doing DAED oversight this year. So they've had a more district-based, and so what we talked about was decentralizing the instructional support so that there could be even more rapport with the teachers and working support. So what we decided to do was Deandra Gomez is in instead of doing math at 2 campuses, she is now elementary instructional coach, working very closely with the principal, but still checking in with the CNI director, working together at least twice a month on coaching strategies, checking to see that they are in their classrooms, doing some oversight that way. Erin Daniels, we are putting her at the high school and to work with instructional coach and doing it, and she is going into the high school's instructional position, which I'll talk about Tiffany's again in just a second. Working there, Tiffany Sagia, who is been working as academic dean up there, doing instructional support and working with dual credit and what have you. She had a very large role with PEAS, with CCMR, and she has a knowledge of PEAS data and input and working with the Sender program that's very, very strong. And I can't stress enough the importance of good coding and identification of students, because every check by a student, every mark, either gives us more money or gives us less money. So we have to be very careful with our coding, and Tiffany is very good at that. Our current meetings coordinator has resigned, and her last day is October 31st. And so Tiffany is, along with doing the data for the high school, she is going to be doing that meetings coordinator piece, because it becomes more important every day that we have it correct, so that we draw the maximum amount of funds that we can, because that's the only way we get more funds right now. You know, they've changed the basic allotment since 2019, so we need to make sure that our coding is correct. So that means that she's using that meetings coordinator FTE, and what we're hoping to do is that leaves us without an instructional coach for ECC. It's no more people than we have right now, we will be opening a position or hiring a coach for that ECC campus, but it's no more people than we have right now. So we're excited about this decentralization approach, but there will still be centralized oversight. Making sure they're doing coaching, making sure our curriculum stays aligned, in our selection of materials, in our implementation, in our professional development plan, in our mentoring of our new staff, in our data review and analysis. That's part of what they'll do when they come together, is looking at data and review of data. But they will be feel, we hope, ownership towards the campus to help those teachers and have those relationships where the teachers are okay with them getting help. Some teachers don't, they're not particularly comfortable getting help. And so we want to work on that relationship as well, to be okay with having, and maybe not even help, maybe it's a new idea or just another way. It's not, it's like increasing your tools in your toolbox. So a little bit different than we have done, but we're doing, just trying to, everything we can to affect those scores in construction. So I should have told y'all before they did, because they were certainly excited about it.
Questions, Mr. Garza?
I was just curious on the teams. I know you said there's oversight. Is it program oversight, or is there someone who...
It's all oversight. We literally have reports that we submit that we need people, you have to go back through the reports, because like, and it'll start with a program list. So like, let's just talk, like bilingual ESL, emerging bilingual students. There's a whole list of different ways that a student might be categorized within that program. And so not only do we have to make sure that that is done correctly, because it is humans putting in those, so it needs a second set of eyes, or principal sign off, and everybody has to look at it. We need somebody to work to make sure everybody knows how to do it correctly. And then not only we can pull up for Natalia Garza, yes, he's coded correctly, but whoops, Lamb Colago, she's not even coded at all. They left her off the list, so you have to check two different ways. Is everybody in, and are they coded correctly? And we have these lists and lists of codes for every program. So it's oversight both ways. And then there's a little change in all this. The state is doing new student data processes, and Ascender, our program that we use, is going through lots of changes. So they have to go with that too. It's not a big thing.
Mr. Bessa? Mr. Armendariz? Mr. Gentry? Ms. Alderette?
No questions.
Thank you.
Now,
Now we will go to cybersecurity.
I want to make a comment about cybersecurity. I wrote my comment down, so I'm trying to. What can we get ready now? You ready?
Ready, it's already, what that's, format is on. Leave it up to me to figure.
Find out.
Don't start twitching.
I have just a comment I wanted to make, because I asked Ms. Roberts to do this because cybersecurity has gotten bigger and bigger for schools. We even had to include in our emergency operations plan this year, all districts are now required to have what they call an annex section on cybersecurity. And at our last superintendent meeting at the Search Center, we had somebody saying to us, and they said that districts are considered target-rich and cyber-poor. We have a very vulnerable population because if they get into student data, then they have people who never had a credit history at all. They have really fresh data, people to mess with. So we have to be very, very careful with them. So.
All right, do y'all remember when internet first started? Yes. It was so watered down. We had some simple web searches, maybe some information, a little email, and then it went to shopping, banking, training, and educational applications. Then we even have to do critical reporting across the internet now. And then there are some of the things that people experience, and I think some of you were probably at that board meeting when the Zoom meeting got hijacked by a lot of inappropriate content, we'll just say that. So the fact that the internet has changed so much, you've got so much critical information, personal information that goes out there. And people like to steal that kind of stuff because they can use it. So hence cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is just, it's a beast. And some of the things, as Dr. Calavo was saying, schools are like one of the biggest targets right now. They think school districts have a lot of money, and they know that if they hijack their data, they're going to want to pay to get it back, and that also impacts our insurance, our cybersecurity insurance that we have. We have to check certain boxes in some cases before we're even able to get that insurance. You know, I've got a lot of information in these slides, and I'm not going to read everything verbatim, but, you know, some of the threats, this month is Cybersecurity Month, and I sent y'all out a few things. I don't know if you got it or not, but it's just, you know, I send out things to the district periodically about cybersecurity, little sneaky things that I get in my own email, my personal email, just showing you things to look for. So, I mean, there's phishing, ransomware, DDoS attacks, and if y'all are not familiar with that, I did put some terms in here just to kind of define what some of these things actually mean. You know, some classes, like I mentioned, the Zoom meeting, you know, they're getting hijacked with, you know, somebody hijacking it with inappropriate content or just, you know, being a nuisance. Cybersecurity criminals, it's a job. They have people that actually, that is their job. It's very unfortunate. In this district, we've had Adobe. We just had another situation like that. I think it was last week, maybe it was the week before. Somebody will send an email and just say, click here, you know, accept, sign, whatever, read. And we've gotten pretty smart about not falling for that. We did at one point fall for that, and that email account did get compromised, so we had to shut it down and then change the email. You know, it's fast acting. Everything you do there, fast acting. HR gets emails asking to change, posing as other people in the district, asking to change routing information so the next paycheck will go here instead of where it's been going. And you know, we're getting smarter at paying attention to those kinds of things and questioning, is this for real or is it not? There was another situation where, I'm trying to think, it was probably about 5 years ago, there was a student At that point, we had our student email accounts open where they could receive email from the outside and send email to the outside. There was a student here that was having inappropriate communications with someone that she met online and then later met them in person, and the law enforcement got involved with that situation. So, that's one of the reasons why, I'm going to get into that here in just a second about email for our students. Let's see, I'm skipping all over the place here. I already mentioned that. Two-factor authentication is something that I think some of y'all probably do that with your banking. We're doing that here in the district too with the administrative folks. We're going to expand that to more folks. And our passwords are, right now 8 characters, but we're going to expand that to 15 because it takes 8 weeks for somebody to keep hitting an account to try to figure out a password. And so we figure if we change those passwords 15 characters, it takes 8 weeks to figure that out. That's why we have password changes more often. And if we make it longer, it'll make it harder for them to figure it out. I haven't even changed slides, y'all. You can tell all right, so I was talking about that. There's some statistics here. So 99%, the statistics show that 99% of the districts are actually taking measures to protect against cyber criminals. I mentioned two-factor authentication, and Dr. Calavo had mentioned that K-12 is one of the most targeted sectors right now because they feel like they know that schools need the student data, so they're going to pay whatever the ransom is. So we just have to get smarter. And I want to show y'all a quick little video here. Where is it? Okay, so this is went too far. This is real-time video. We use a product called, and it's not a sales pitch, we use a product called Fortinet. And I'm going to show you this threat map. And these are actual attacks that are going on right now. Do we need to turn this? Not to our district, but just, if you look, here we are in Texas right here. These attacks that are happening are coming from all over. And this is real time. I was looking at this earlier, and there was a point in time during the day about 2 o'clock. It was crazy. It looked like, and every time you see one of those lines go, that's not just one attack. That could be thousands. An attacker trying to hit thousands all at the same time. And then if we want to look at this is what the colors mean. I can't see that very well from here, but this is what the colors mean. So when you see those different colors, that's what's happening. Yeah. So wait till I show you Natalia ISDs in a minute. All right. So I shall move on to the next slide. Where am I? Here. Can't even find my own slide. Let's close some of these windows. There. Okay, move forward this. I had kind of talked about that. Some of the statistics show that districts are paying anywhere from $50,000 to $1 million per cyber attack. And so not only is it costing money, it's costing students education, as much as 3 weeks with an attack. And thankfully we have not had one. We've got our budget, the most of the technology budget is spent on cybersecurity, I will say. So we have to ensure, some of the challenges, we have to ensure that students are safe and faculty, physical and cyber. Then we've got to also consider, the best learning, and some of the applications we have to make sure that they are safe for our students to use, and the companies that we get these applications from are following the cybersecurity techniques to make sure that we don't get hit. What else? Okay, so we have something called, we get funding from E-rate, and I have to sign something every time we do an application saying that we are following we are SIPA compliant. SIPA compliant is the Child Internet Protection Act. This link, if y'all want to, I'm not going to go to it now, but anyway, it gives all the details about that. And then also we have a tool in place for FERPA violations. Anytime there's a FERPA violation, I will get an email and then address it. We just, need to practice encryption. And then the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. So those are some things that we have to be compliant when our students are using the internet. So one of the things that seems to be a topic is for students to bring their own devices. Some of the reasons why it would be great, and you would think that it would be more cost effective for students to bring their own devices, but we try to standardize on the equipment that we purchase, because we've got to know how to fix it when it breaks. And if we've got 12 different kinds of devices, whether they be iPads, MacBooks, different versions of operating systems. Some of them may not be secure, and we would have to put those devices on our network and then risk some of the, maybe they don't have antivirus. Maybe their operating system is not up to date. It could be that, on the flip side to that is, do you really want to mix personal and education? Students may have things on their device that they don't want us to be able to manage. So if we have those devices on our network, we would have to manage them. And if we had to manage them and put our tools on those devices, there's a price tag, that comes along with that, to licensing and manpower, more manpower for sure. And then if something happened to the device, there's always the thought of data loss. You lose, I know some of you may have had I know one person in particular was doing a dissertation. And if you lose all of your data, you would rely on someone else to try to get your data back when it's not our device. It's a liability as well. Do y'all have any questions on anything I have said so far? I feel like I'm all over the place. I know I am. There's just so much to tell about it.
Well, I've got tons of questions in this regard, but
Okay.
I'll try to not do that personally. So you mentioned how, using personal devices in this setting actually could increase the threat of security issues. So some of our courses are dual credit, interacting with the outside world. I've heard some feedback that our current books we're using don't necessarily, and maybe it's not the books themselves, maybe it's how locked down they are, that doesn't allow them to interact with, I don't know, I want to say the real world, but it's hard to say that in the virtual setting. So some of those lockdowns make it difficult to complete work and to research different things that is required of a dual credit class or program.
So at the beginning of the school year, even in the summer when the classes, the dual credit classes, I know the ones in the class in UT, they always send me an email that says, please make sure that these sites are unblocked. There may be a site here and there that isn't unblocked, but my department, I'm usually the one that does it. As soon as I get that request, whether it be a phone call because it's something that needs to happen right away, I unblock that site. If we know about it in advance, then like I had one today, it was, I'm trying to think what it even was now. It was English. It was something to do with English. And I didn't know the site was blocked. They didn't know the site was blocked. But the link to that I was given didn't go anywhere. So I had to go back to the teacher asking for another URL because that one didn't work. So as soon as those sites, we know about it, we unblock it, but if we don't know about it, then we don't know that it's causing a problem.
Right, and some of the, even that little adjustment there, being that we have high school students taking college courses, you know, it kind of adds to the whole stress of that environment that's being created, you know, changing from high school into a college setting.
Sure.
So, although there's a fix, like you just mentioned, is there a way to maybe get more advanced knowledge or more advanced coordination so that these adjustments aren't happening once the semester has started and there's deadlines? And from what I'm hearing, and anyone who went to college knows you have some teachers who are sticklers about, timelines and due dates and no excuses that 12 a.m. was the cutoff.
Right. So I would love to have as much advance notice because I want to see the students succeed as well. So I do know that one situation, the students didn't even get their syllabus until much after school the course had already started. So I would always like to have a conversation with, or an email communication with whoever that school is, just to make sure that we've got things unblocked and ready for the kids when they're ready. Now, there are times that even though we think we're ready to go, there's just something that will come up and I'll need to unblock it.
We did just buy new computers for them too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we bought 20, you'll have to tell them more than I know, but we bought 25 for the HOSA group and we bought 25 for the lab for their use at school. They are updated, new, they just came in. It was a large purchase.
We're actually waiting. The carts are supposed to arrive tomorrow. We've already processed all the Chromebooks for HOSA. The Chromebooks that we got for HOSA, we didn't get the standard ones. We got an upgraded, a step up, which is double the, I'm going to say, resources, RAM and space. And then the laptops, 25 for HOSA and then 25 for the dual credit classes. When we get new PCs, we'll call it, or laptops in, we have to re-image them to put Natalia image and put all of our tools to make sure that the content filter is on there, and we've got some specific configurations that we do, and it takes a little bit of time. I think today, we got them today, and I think today we were able to get 5 done, so we've got 20 more to go.
And I'm just trying to narrow down my questions. So since we're on cybersecurity and student safety, and tying it into dual credit courses again. So I heard there was a class this fall semester at one of the dual credit programs. I'm not sure which one. I think it was a speech. and the teacher was, in the college setting, was requiring either a daily or weekly YouTube posting. And it might have been a speech class. And from what I understood, a lot of students weren't comfortable making either this daily or weekly, whatever it was, YouTube posting, because it was being put on this site that was obviously with no filters. And I think, and I didn't read the syllabus, but from what I understand, the instructor was requesting, introduce yourself, tell me about yourself, what do you like doing? And I think these kids may have all dropped the course because the teacher was not budging on understanding where our pocket of kids were coming from, here at a high school setting. And I don't know if there's a way to, when we sign up for these programs, let these colleges know that, hey, we are still in a very controlled setting and we don't want to create more risk than what's already happened.
So, Mr. Garza, when we, so for instance, the spring semester course registrations have already been turned into Palo Alto, and they pretty much assign the professors, but we don't have access to their syllabi until the semester begins. So I'm not sure when it comes, just like when I'll just take, if you go back a little bit to just college, whenever you registered, you kind of looked for the time and the date and whatever was available. You might have not known who the professor was or what the requirements were. So that's the only thing we kind of face in regards to that. Now, I will say this. If the dual credit teacher is on our campus, then we have control of that because it's our dual credit teacher. Right. But if we're at the kind of having to use the college's professor, adjunct faculty, then I don't have control of what assignments, because they're the ones that are building the course. But that is something that I'm looking into, trying to make sure that we have more of our faculty that is able to provide those courses that are credentialed by the college, so that we don't have to face things like that. So for instance, right now, Dr. Brown is going to be teaching our college algebra course. We have Mr. Denny, who does the English courses. And then we have Mr. Denny, that's English, Math, Social Studies. We're looking, Mr. Garcia, who's not with us right now, but he was the government teacher. And so and Ms. Fellner does all the PCT teachers. So we have control of what can happen. Yes. And not necessarily control, but like we're able to, right. But when it comes to something like speech or Spanish or psychology, those courses, we don't necessarily have faculty that can teach those on our campus yet. But so we're kind of, we have to wait on who the college actually assigns us to, and it might be a different professor every semester.
Well, and I don't know if there would be a better time to bring this up, just that we're talking about security and student safety in regards to this topic.
Yes, sir.
So I just felt like I had to bring it up, trying to be proactive in that in future semesters. That's something we're thinking about, and if we ever are speaking with a college counselor coordinator, maybe inquire some of maybe some of our limits on what we're going to ask our kids to do and posting.
The only thing, and I'll say this, is that the college is very clear about lowering their academic standards. So whatever it is that when it comes to their curriculum, and you'll read this in the MOU, if it's anything that's lowering their academic standard for that particular course, they're not going to help meet us there. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So if that YouTube video is part of the curriculum that they've put together in regards to this is how the student is gonna learn this particular objective, then they're not gonna meet us in our requirement. because it's their course, it's not our course. I don't know if that makes any sense, but...
No, it makes sense. I just didn't know how much, regulation we have on our side to kind of...
In the 5 years that I've, or more than 5 years that I've worked with community colleges, that's always the one thing that they very stress to me in regards to the curriculum and the instruction behind the course is that they always tell me it's our course, not yours.
Yeah,
so,
and it's, I always try to be proactive, thinking ahead, anticipate what could develop, and I don't know if there's a better way to address it.
I think the best way is if one of our teachers finally will get the speech certification, college credential, then we could have our own speech 1301 teacher on our campus. And that's something that we can look forward to. Maybe put that out there as well.
All right. I said it's out there, so hopefully it stays on our radar and we look for opportunities to address this and keep our kids and their computers
protected. Yes, sir.
Okay. So any other questions? Any other questions on the bring your own device? So, now that I've talked all about cybersecurity, I'd like to share with you what Natalia ISD is doing to make sure that we are keeping not only our students but our staff and our data safe. So we do have something called EDR, which is endpoint protection, and I'm not going to go through all what it does, but basically it monitors devices in any kind of activity that the device has in and out traffic, whether it's going out to a website and coming back or just doing a web search. We have something called EMS, and it's the mobility part of for the Chromebooks. It basically does the same thing. It makes sure that there are some sites that are ridiculously blocked. We're like, why is this site even blocked? We don't know. There was a keyword that triggered it to be blocked. We look at it, we investigate, and if it looks like it's a safe site, then we'll allow it. We do have a firewall that you have to run your network, but we've got that firewall locked down pretty tight, so we don't let unwanted traffic in the network. We do something called network segmentation, which is VLANs. We have students are on one VLAN. We've got security cameras on another. Our phones are on another, and so forth and so on. And by segmenting it out like that, it helps us to lock down things more, because what we want to lock down for students, we may not do the same for staff. We are part of CyberVision 20, which it is a consortium, and it focuses on awareness and also, gives updates from the state. We are working, Will, who is our network security, he and I are working on cybersecurity framework, and we're trying diligently to get through it, but there's a lot to it. Like Dr. Clavo was saying, for the physical security, cybersecurity falls under that, but physical security also falls under what we're working on. And we're hoping by the end of this school year we can have it finished, because there's a lot of processes. You have to ask the questions like, access control. Well, how do you get access control? Then it goes all the way back to HR hiring the person. So there's a lot of steps to it. And then we do have something that the teachers are using this year and really liking. It's called ClassWise. It gives them greater ownership of their lessons, and They can, if they want to direct students to a site, they have a dashboard where they can see all the students on their devices in their classroom, and if they want to direct them to a site, they can drop a URL in there and all the kids can go to this URL at the same time. Or if they seem to be off task, the teacher can give them a little warning, a nudge, and close that window and, get them back on science or biology. We do have another thing that is called Monitor. It analyzes where students go on their devices, and if it's, taking a real close scan at where they're going, and if it looks like it's a site that could be harmful or, something that they shouldn't be going to, it'll flag it. If they type in inappropriate searches, it'll flag it. It does a lot of, it helps to analyze some of the risks. Then we do have cybersecurity awareness training, and I do a campaign. I did one in the spring. I'll be doing another one this fall for teachers, and then we'll do the admin back in the spring annually. Multi-factor authentication, we have implemented that with administrative folks, and then as I mentioned earlier about the complexity of our passwords. And let's see, I don't really have, I could get deep in the weeds with this, but I think y'all get the gist of what we're looking at. I will show y'all. Can't see the screen sideways. Here it is. This is a view of our network. You can see a few little things happening there, and the majority of those, they're not really necessarily attacks. They're some of our applications reaching out to get updates, VPN updates through a VPN. So they're not attacks coming in. In fact, we actually have a pretty squeaky clean network with traffic coming in. We've done a pretty good job. Will does a great job at making sure, mitigating anything that we do find. Adobe seems to be a big one out there that causes a lot of grief. But that is about all I have to say to cybersecurity.
Thank you for the report. We do have a board member that nominates from this group. We're going to skip down to 7A for Texas Government Code Chapter Section 551.074 and 551.071, discussion and consultation with the attorney regarding the status of the proposed termination of the administrator contract of District Employee Marshall Lee Myers. We're going to go into closed session at 8:46 p.m.
Where are you going? That way.
You mean real hot chocolate, or I won't be there?
Real one, with cocoa. Chattering.
What's it at?
Come back into open session at 9:12 p.m. There'll be no action on the closed session item. And we're gonna roll back around to, actually 4D? No, 4D. Electric buses update, Ms. Riddle.
Hello?
Hang on.
Sorry. Good evening, Mr. President, board members, and Dr. Calavo. As you know, Natalia was awarded of funding for the purchase of electric buses in the amount of $1.7 million. Tonight we have a short presentation to give you an update on where we are in the purchasing process. So the deadline to submit a request for payment from the EPA is November the 29th. That is quickly approaching. We've done our homework and have spoken to a couple of other districts to see what their experience has been like with their electric buses. I will share what we learned in those conversations in just a bit. Also, just as a reminder, the $1.7 million covers the 5 new buses, charging stations, and to run the power from the electric pole to those charging stations. We'll run through those numbers in the next few slides. So we've gotten quotes from 3 different manufacturers, and that would be Bluebird, International, and Thomas. After careful consideration, we recommend moving forward with Bluebird buses as we feel that they will provide the best value to the district. We are not looking for Cadillac plans or bells and whistles. So with that in mind, as you can see here, the price per bus is about $378,000. Once you add in the charging stations and running the power, we're at about 1.9 with a shortfall around $250,000. As discussed and previously approved, this deficit is planned to come out of our general fund. And with that in mind, there are some other areas that will actually bring back some funding into the program. Interest earnings. While we wait for our buses to be built, the funds will sit in our investment account and earn interest. I'm hoping for about a 4 to 5% rate of return by the time it's all said and done. We could see anywhere between $36,000 to $60,000 depending on how long it takes to manufacture the buses. We will also realize some fuel savings in the neighborhood of about $125,000 over 5 years. So that is a great savings right there. There's also a possibility of filing an IRS refundable credit that is available for commercial vehicles. What we would do is file a $0 tax return since we are a school district, and then we would apply the applicable schedules to that. If we are successful, we could qualify for a credit of up to $40,000 per bus. But it won't come fast, unfortunately. This is what we call a post-transaction process. We must wait about 9 months to 12 months after the buses are in service before we can actually apply for the funds. And then it takes about a year to actually receive the funds, unfortunately. So moving on the flip side of that, and in all transparency, there will be an increase in our auto liability insurance of about $31,000 over the next 5 years. But let's face it, it is unavoidable when the cost to replace a single bus has tripled. You can expect to see an increase in the cost to insure that bus. So here's a little breakdown of the pros and cons and what we just discussed. So we will, part of the pros, we will see some interest earnings from having our money in the bank. We'll see some savings on the fuel. We've got that potential refundable credit with the IRS. And there's a little bonus there. We could also apply for, there's also a refundable credit out there available for charging stations. We could get up to 30% of the cost refunded to us as well. Again, one of the pros is we get 5 new buses and they're all under warranty. So that is always nice. I would like to have some type of bus replacement plan on the books where we could possibly maybe purchase 1 bus, maybe every other year, maybe a white bus, small yellow bus. Maybe at the end of every fiscal year, we see how much money we have left over and just kind of have a plan on the books. Let's face it, our little district will never be able to purchase an electric bus out of pocket. If they cost $378,000 today, and that's on the cheaper side, imagine what that price will be 5 to 8 years from now. So we will not be able to buy a $500,000 bus. However, we don't have that crystal ball. So it is in the best interest of the district to have some type of replacement plan for these buses while we are enjoying the benefits of having 5 new buses on our fleet. On the other side there, some of the cons, like we talked about that $255,000 shortfall. Of course, there is going to be some out-of-pocket expense. There always is. Another con, the two-year wait for the IRS credit. That's kind of the longest time possible. We could possibly see it before then, depending on how quickly we can get those schedules out. Of course, there's going to be training for the drivers. And we do have to scrap the old buses within 6 months of having the new ones on our fleet. So we will still have them for 6 months. They're not making us just kind of throw them away. So we will still have access to them as backup buses for up to 6 months. And we can even request an extension if we come into any problems with them, mechanical problems or any electrical issues, we can request for an extension to keep those backup buses. And of course, it's always a con, the unknown risk. Bless you. Almost done here. So these are just some general highlights about some of the required criteria we must meet for the purchase of our buses. So as I discussed in a previous slide, we are going to go with Bluebird, the manufacturer Bluebird. Their service and repairs, there are mobile stations all over San Antonio. So that is actually a pro. They actually come to us if something happens. Generally speaking, we will receive same-day service depending on their workload. Another little highlight here, the models must be 2023 or newer. They must have a gross weight rating of more than 10,000 pounds. They must be purchased, not leased. And they must serve the district for at least 5 years. So that is definitely a hard rule there. And upon request, they must be made available for inspection from the EPA. And some closing remarks here. I did my little rainbows and butterflies because I always like to say it's not always rainbows and butterflies, but in all transparency, I did want to just kind of put this out there. The 2 districts that we did talk to did report that right now the mileage that's being reported is about 100 to 120 miles per charge. Sometimes 70s depending on the driver and the conditions. So if there's a lot of uphill where you're at, it's possible that you may not get the same range, but we're as flat as it gets out here. So we'll probably be realizing more of the 100 to the 120 mile range there. We did have a very candid conversation with the transportation director over at San Felipe del Rio, and he did report a few issues. He's already had to have some air compressors replaced, had a little bit of trouble with the battery cooling system. Now, in all fairness, he was also very transparent with us. He said that their plan is always to have those buses replaced. And now, in his case, I think they replaced anywhere between 20 to 25 buses. So it is in their long-term financial plan as well to kind of replace those buses a little bit at a time. He also reported untimely support issues, but only because of his location. Now, we did have our mechanic call over to the rush service stations to make sure that we would not experience those issues. And because we are closer to San Antonio, they do not anticipate us having those issues at all. In fact, they have mobile service stations, so they said on most days they can be here on the day of. If not, we would be serviced very quickly. Unfortunately, where they're located, I think depending on what component breaks down on their buses, like right now they're waiting on some mechanic to come in from California, unfortunately. So it just depends on, again, location and also the warranty package that they purchased and so forth and so on. So it can get technical. I don't anticipate that happening with us according to everyone that we spoke with. And then Martinsville ISD had absolutely no reports, no bad reports to tell us about. They love their buses. They got 10 on their fleet, and really they got their entire fleet replaced. And they said they love them. They're a nice, quiet ride. The kids love them, and they have not reported any issues so far.
So where you have one, you have the other. Just like my cons list said, it's always a risk. It's always a risk, but I think that we are covered on most of our bases here, so very exciting. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Did Martinsville also use Bluebird?
They did. Yes, sir.
And I know we're getting the cost efficient for the one. How, any issues with AC that have been noted or any compromise on, we're estimating that AC power to accommodate the price?
They did say that, if you must be on a full charge. So if you're not on a full charge, then the AC is going to drain you faster. So, but we're always going to have them on a full charge. So it's, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Item 5C, discuss and take possible action to approve the resolution in support of the legislative action to increase school funding.
It is, this is a resolution actually presented at the Tascapathy Conference in San Antonio, and it was written by our law firm, but lots of districts are using it. And it is just a resolution saying that you support the legislature addressing school funding, because it hasn't changed since 2019 in the basic allotment. And what will happen is if y'all approve it and once it's signed, then we'll start sending it out to people.
Make a motion to approve the legislative action resolution as presented by administration.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Garza. Any further discussion? All in favor, state aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We're going to go to item 5G, Board President Report on Board Member Continuing Education Hours. We do have the education hours, which are from November 2023 through October 24. And of course, that includes everything from local district orientation to the Texas Education Code, post-legislative update to Texas Education Code, team building, additional continuing education, evaluating student academic performance and setting goals, identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children, and school safety on some of the things we have to have training on. Mr. Andrew Vessa has 5 hours. He has completed his training. Ms. Alderete has 5 hours. She has completed her training. Myself, I have 11.5 hours. I've exceeded my training requirements. Mr. Garza has completed his training at 5 hours. Mr. Gentry has completed his training at 5 hours. Mr. Armendariz has exceeded his training hour requirement at 16 hours. And Ms. Rodriguez has completed hers at 5 hours. I would need a motion to accept the board training hours as presented. Got a motion by Mr. Gentry. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Armendariz. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Consent agenda 6A through 6F. I'm going to make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Gentry. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Superintendent report.
All right, the superintendent's report, just our total enrollment right now is 1,315 students, 1315. That's up almost 75 kids from last from when we ended the year. We have 129 transfers. Staffing, we've had some resignations, some moving around, some changes. We have quite a few teaching assistants that often come and go. We've had a recent resignation from Mr. Weiss, music teacher. We're working on a plan to continue with music. Mrs. Carpenter has taken over for Ms. Cherie Deidre. She left, so we actually don't have 2 vacancies at ECC, so they're excited about that. The quarterly injury report, which is through from July through the end of September, and it has the injuries that everything Doc has dealt with. Mr. Tyler Simons in football, cross country, and in volleyball. And the attendance report, we are up for the first quarter this year a little bit than we were last year on the first quarter. We have a couple of amazing things that have happened on the attendance this year, in my opinion.
group with the grade level with the highest attendance is not actually the seniors, but the seniors are the second highest grade level, which is absolutely, they have 96.75%. That's pretty amazing for seniors. The grade level with the highest is sixth grade, which is 96.84%. Our overall attendance for the district for the first quarter was 95.98, which is up from 95.29 last year. So we're doing every little bit helps. So two things will happen there. Our ADA will go up because of the percentage and because we have a whole lot more students. And actually, we're drawing funds on the, right now on the projected enrollment that you had to project 2 years ago, and it's 100 or more less than what we expected for the year. I mean, about what we have now. Get out all the attendance reports, the bonds update, or RV, the softball and baseball fields. We're still looking at completion on schedule for the beginning of February. If you want to see something pretty, the softball turf has been installed. The concession stand building, the farms had to be moved. They had it oriented wrong, so they're working to get that foundation poured, and then they're working to finalize the electrical work, the plan for the electrical work, and the discussion about it to move the poles. Proposition 1, elementary and CTE, the design documents will be completed soon. We've done requests for contractor qualifications. We had a pre-submittal conference, and there were 3 different contractors there asking questions, and then bids are due to NISD by Thursday, November 7th. So that's moving along. That's it.
Hold up.
You want to read the list?
Middle conference was still 3 contractors attending 5 people.
Yeah, there was 3 from one contractor, and actually one was from here. Yeah, I don't remember which one he was. I think it was with Spyglass. It was somebody from here. His parents live not far from the school. Okay.
Oh.
So, that's what happened.
All right. We're going to adjourn at 9:30 p.m.